Welcome to another edition of Nutrition Seminar with Evan here at Lifetime in the Education Center. Disclaimer, I am not a medical doctor, I am not your doctor. Alright, so take these things I say with a grain of salt, but we're going to go into it. Alright. Nutritional Science 101. Okay? So nutritional science is a real science. Get a PhD in it if you want. But it has everything to do with science that studies the physiological process of nutrition, okay? Interpreting the nutrients. What are nutrients? You got micronutrients and macronutrients, and phytochemicals and zoochemicals and all kinds of things. Other substances found in relation to maintenance, okay? Where'd it go?
I didn't do anything.
Here, just tap the screen. Just click. Go back. Okay, so with maintenance like just a general term, maintenance, growth, reproduction, health. So everything really how nutrition applies to health. Go ahead, next one. So what is the definition of good nutrition? So what are your thoughts? I want everybody to voice their own opinion out loud on what they think good nutrition is. Ready? Go.
Whole foods.
Whole foods, okay.
Yeah. No processed foods.
No processed foods. Kind of a similar answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say.
Dare to be different.
Eating right.
Eating right. I actually like that one. All right, go ahead for the next one. Now, according to Precision Nutrition, rated #1 certification in the world, who certified me as a nutritionist. Worked with some people, you might have heard of them, Nike, Titleist, New York Times, Men's Health, Women's Health, Huffington Post, all these professional organizations. Their definition of good nutrition is the ability to control your energy balance. What is an energy balance? Are we talking about good vibes, bad vibes? No. We're talking about actual standard units of energy, which are calories. Those are the things that determine health. That, by definition, the appropriation of calories themselves defines health. So if you are planning to lose 1 pound a week, while retaining muscle mass, and you do that, then that by definition is considered good nutrition. You did what you set out to do, okay? Regardless of your emotions surrounding your food, because there's a lot of emotion connected to certain foods. This food's bad, this food's good. I shouldn't eat this, it's gonna be bad for me, okay. So clean versus dirty eating, which is a useless and potentially dangerous mindset. Because at the end of the day, no amount of vegetables can cure anything, okay? I know that the famous quote by Hippocrates is, "Let food be thy medicine." That's really incorrect. We don't follow that at all in modern nutrition. So go ahead and do it again. So we'll be talking about caloric surplus, where you consume more than you burn off, which is where you gain weight. So if a 120-pound teenager goes and asks me, how can I gain muscle? I'm going to tell them, to gain weight. Now, it is impossible to gain muscle without gaining some fat. You guys know this? You're going to get fatter, but by a little small margin. Maybe you gain 1 pound of, let's say 3 pounds of muscle for every 5 pounds of body fat. Okay, but you can improve that ratio by how fast you gain that weight. Okay, so you've got to be good at both. Click on the screen. It's just a screensaver. I'll go back. So you've got to be good at this, gaining muscle, and you need to be good at this. 2 different things. 2 completely different ball games. Okay? This is where you burn off more than you consume. This is fat loss. Okay? Now you're going to lose some muscle in pursuit of fat loss. Just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but the better job you do at this, the less you'll have to do this. And the better job you do at this, the less you have to do this. Because you'll be retaining muscle and you'll be staying leaner. Next one. So energy balance, by definition, is calories in, calories out. This comes from this little thing called the law of conservation of energy and mass. Matter cannot be created nor destroyed. So calories in versus calories out. This is your calories in. If you're in a negative caloric balance, the calories in are greater than the calories that are out. The calories out are greater than the calories in, you're going to achieve weight loss. Okay. So starvation mode doesn't exist. You're not going to starve yourself so much that your cortisol gets so high that you're going to start storing a bunch of fat. It's impossible. Physiologically, it defies the laws of physics. Positive caloric balance, energy out. So if it's positive, then your calories in are greater. Maybe I went to Shoney's and I forgot to work out that day. So my caloric intake was greater than my output. That's where you store body fat. That's where you gain weight. Okay, so it's not always unhealthy to gain weight. Some people need to gain weight. If someone has an eating disorder or someone's really sick or in the hospital and they come to us as a trainer, they need to be able to safely gain weight and gain muscle tissue. Ready? The main thing is keep the main thing the main thing. Alright? Which is calories. Calories determines everything. There was one doctor, famous doctor, I forget his name, but he was like, I don't want to know anything about your diet except how many calories a day you're eating. And generally, that's correct. You can tell pretty much by looking at someone if they've been in a deficit or if they've been in a surplus in the last few weeks. Ready? So, which is easier to control, the input or the output of calories? Anybody want to venture a guess? Input? Correct. You can't out-train a bad diet. So like if you were to say, well, I'm going to eat this whole blueberry pie, and then I'm going to do 3 hours of cardio to burn it off later, that's an uphill battle. That's really difficult. That's why this lady's crying right here.
New Year's Eve.
The average adult American eats 3,500 calories. Wait, plus they're sedentary. That's why they're overweight. That's why 69% of adult Americans are obese. That is an actual fact. And really, what is obese? Obese is like 33 BMI or above. It's not fun to think about, but we think that most comorbidities to obesity are actually underlying result of being under-muscled rather than just overweight. So if you have muscle, you become a fat-burning machine, you can burn off fat a lot easier. Okay, because it's really hard to find a very lean, ripped person that has a bunch of diseases. You know what I'm saying? So let's try it again. How to calculate your calories. This is going to go into some depth here on nutritional science. You can use formulas like Harris, Benedict, Mueller. Mueller is the most accurate equation on the planet. Metabolic assessment. Metabolic assessment was you run on the treadmill for like 10 minutes, right? These are all good, but at the end of the day, the best way to tell what your metabolism is to track your calories, count them all up for the whole week, and then step on the scale and then see if it moved. If it didn't budge at all up or down, then you were eating exactly maintenance. We're going to talk about why eating maintenance is a futile task and should be avoided. It's almost impossible. Generate your desired deficit or surplus. So you take the equation, you multiply by a factor, for most people about 1.55 if they work out 3 to 5 days a week. Then you subtract, let's say you want to burn a pound in a week, you subtract 500 calories a day, because that's 3,500 calories divided by 7 days in a week is 500 calories. So go ahead next. Most people, 500 calories is a good place to start. It's a little aggressive, but it's enough to get you going. Makes you lose a pound. Doesn't matter if you weigh 300 pounds or 100 pounds. 500 calorie deficit will make you lose exactly 1 pound per week. Okay. So yeah. The amount of the deficit is going to vary. Like a 100 pound woman doesn't need to be in a 700 calorie deficit. She needs to be in like a 300 to 400 calorie deficit, okay? Because there's less of her. So it's all relative. For building muscle, 250 calories above maintenance results in gaining half a pound per week. That is my recommended rate of weight gain, half a pound per week. So if you do a strength program for 8 weeks, you only gain 4 pounds. It's very slow. And I've been doing this the right way for like 15 years. And it's always slow. It's never, sensational. But you just get better than last time. The whole goal is just get better than last time. Right? So the golden rule of fat loss: never lose more than 1% of your body weight per week. Why? Why would you say that, Coach Evan? Because losing more than that will increase in significant muscle loss, and it's easier to do than you think. Every time, without fail, someone steps on the scale, they lost 3 pounds in 1 week, and like, you lost muscle. And then sure enough, their muscle mass dropped. Why? Because your body can hold so much water, and by the time you've lost 3 pounds of water, you're starting to burn into muscle tissue. Okay? 80% of muscle tissue is made up of glycogen, which is 3 parts water, 1 part carbohydrate. So you need water, you need to stay somewhat hydrated. Nutrition is not about good food versus bad food. It's about the right amount of carbs, proteins, fats, sodium, creatine, all that. Like just the right amount. You know, it just needs to be tweaked. Even when it comes to toxicology, okay, about something's toxic, this chemical's toxic. It all has to do with the amount of it. Why? Because toxicity is in the dosage. Okay? Calorie tracking apps like MyFitnessPal are a great form of self-monitoring. Okay? Increases adherence, intrinsic motivation, and keep you accurate and keep you going. If you're crushing it and you're killing it and you feel good about it, you're going to keep going. And that's, you know, if you have no idea where you're going or where you came from, how are you going to keep going? Like if you're in the natural, just like driving around on an interstate, and you don't know where you are or where you're going or where you came from, you're not going to want to keep going, right? So, next one. One study was showing registered dietitians on average were found to be off by up to 300 calories a day while eating intuitively, which is what 99% of people in this building are doing. They're eating intuitively. They're not tracking their calories. They're just eating because I feel like it, because I'm hungry. Okay, but that's a 2,100 calorie difference a week. That's enough to make any person, expert or not, gain 2/3 of a pound of fat in 7 days, which is enough to really mess things up and frustrate you. So what I'm trying to say here, don't eat intuitively, track your calories, be aware of what you're consuming. It might be a little task, it might be a little bit of pain just to track, oh, I ate this for breakfast. Just do it anyway. These are experts. Experts who know, like they know what a source of protein is, they know what a source of carb is, but yet they're still off by 300 calories a day on average. This was a real study that was shown. Ready? So, yeah, when in a deficit, the trick is not to lose muscle by losing it slowly. Okay? So your main problem with weight loss is losing muscle. And the main problem with bulking or gaining weight is that you don't add fat too quickly, right? The speed determines the ratio of caloric partitioning. Okay, it's a great phrase. Go back. That means, you know, if someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I gained 10 pounds of muscle in 1 week," isn't that good? No, that's not good. Because you gain probably 1 pound, maybe less than a pound of muscle, and you gain 9 pounds of fat, or water, or whatever. But everything you do it slowly. So macros matter. Why? Because they contain calories. And calories determine the energy balance, and energy balance determines comorbidities and health and all these things. Okay? So carbs, 4 calories per gram. Protein, 4 calories per gram. Fats, ooh, look at that, 9 calories per gram. So yeah, watch out for that peanut butter, huh? So a lot of coaches like to mention peanut butter because it's considered a healthy food, but it's very calorically dense. 2 tablespoons is 190 calories, and if you mismeasure it, you're doubling your portions, and you just ate like 400 calories of peanut butter. Okay. And then alcohol, I have to throw this in here because this is a real thing. This really does exist. 7 calories per gram. The average person, they feel guilty. They're like, I don't want to track this. I don't want like my coach to know. But it's better to track it and know what you're having and keep it all in balance. Although alcohol will not benefit you in any way, let's just make you feel good. But you know, your muscles will always appreciate carbs, and they're only 4 calories per gram. So a lot of people think that carbs are like the bad guy. Carbs will make you gain weight. Carbs will make you fat. Carbs are inflammatory. Carbs are this. Carbs are that. What about diabetes? Carbs. Okay. Well, carbs are the lowest And in fact, every food that you think it's because of carbs, like pizza, ice cream, French fries. No, it's because it's both high in carbs and it's high in fats. So it's both. You cannot name a single whole food, like y'all mentioned, whole foods. You cannot name a single whole food that is both high in carbs and high in fats. Avocados, high in fat but low in carbs. Bananas, high in carbs but low in fat. So every processed food is a little bit, you got to handle it like uranium with gloves. You know, it's like, this is very calorically dense, you know. Just be careful, eat in moderation, but it doesn't mean you don't need to stay away from it completely. Okay, ready? As long as protein and calories are equated, body composition will be the same. This is like nuts, right? But it's true. So if you do keto versus high carb diet, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that protein and calories are equated. Okay, and of course the amount of a deficit that you're in. The deficit determines how much fat you burn. Okay, how many calories you consume determines how lean you get, not the source of the calories. So carbs, fats, calories don't matter as much when it comes to fat storing, just the calories, yeah. So yeah, hitting your protein is crucial. So like if I tell you, I want you to eat 1,200 calories a day, but you gotta eat 130 grams of protein. And you're like, well, Coach Evans just said eat 1,200 calories a day. So I'm gonna do that. But you forget about the 130 grams of protein part. What's gonna happen is you're inevitably probably going to underconsume the protein and overconsume fat and carb calories, right? Y'all tracking with me? So the protein the only way that your calories are going to work is if your protein is on target. Okay, next. Recommended protein intake equation. So any coach, any nutrition coach should know this, but I'm going to just show you 2.4 to 2.6 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. So if you weigh 150 pounds, and you're 20% body fat, then you have a fat mass of 30 pounds. Okay? 150 times 30 pounds of fat equals 120 pounds of lean body mass. You take that lean body mass number and divide it by 2.2 to convert it to kilograms. So now you've got 54 kilograms of lean body mass. And you multiply that by a factor of 2.4. If you're fairly young, if you're in your 20s or 30s, 2.4. If you're like closer to 70, 2.6. Okay. So it's a thing called anabolic resistance. So you need more protein to build the same amount of muscle as you get older. That gives you 129 grams daily protein. This is a very reasonable and doable equation. You ever hear people say, well, eat a gram of protein per pound of body weight? Okay, well, like, what if you're 300 pounds? Like, that doesn't work. So you have to base it off of lean body mass, which is how much muscle you have. Right? Next. Another formula that I can kind of approve of would be 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. As long as this is accurate and reasonable and like recommended by a coach. Because some people are like, I want to lose 100 pounds, and like, you only need to lose 30 pounds. You know? Let's say they want to lose 30 pounds, you know, 170 is their goal. So, next. How to hit your protein in a deficit, okay? So when you're in a deficit, you're limited on carb and fat calories. So you really got to eat almost high protein for everything you're doing. And I'm using this just to show you, realistically, if you eat 25 to 35 grams of protein 4 times a day, that looks like this. High protein breakfast, get some eggs in there if you can. High protein lunch, chicken, fish, beef, vegan sources of protein, whatever. And then, of course, you know, pretty much repeat that. But let's go next. If you need, let's say you need 140 grams of protein a day. Divide your total protein by the number of meals that you think you should have. Okay, test it out. It's just calculate like what's 140 divided by 3. Because the average person eats 3 meals a day. Well, according to this, the optimal number, somewhere around 25 to 30 grams for this person, is 5 meals a day. So you got to be realistic. Don't say, well, I'll hit 55 grams of protein twice a day. Nobody does that. You wouldn't feel good if you did that. Your stomach would be so bloated. Okay, so go next. So by definition, the healthiest diet is one that you can safely lose weight and keep it off long term. All right? So it doesn't really matter if you're high carb or low carb. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just matters that you keep it off. Due to the energy nature of calories and the impact on health, just the losing of weight, not even eating clean with more vegetables and more micronutrients, causes measurable health markers to improve, such as blood pressure, LDL cholesterol, blood sugar improvements, and the risk of diabetes. If adding vegetables made you healthier, vegans would be the healthiest people on the planet, and they're not. Because it's all about macros. We gotta get back to macros, be macro conscious. Next. Should you give in to cravings? Yes or no? What do y'all think?
Depends on the cravings.
Yeah.
Avocado, yes. Guacamole.
Yes, you should, in moderation. To answer this question more fully, what causes cravings? So if you're craving salty foods, this is a real craving. Why are you craving salty foods? Because you're not getting enough sodium in your diet, likely. Is it bad for you to consume potato chips with salty food? I mean, is it going to harm you? No, you're giving your body what it needs. So what I'm saying is most cravings are generally going to be they're not lying to you. You really do need what you're craving. As long as you don't binge eat on cheesecake for 12 hours, you're probably going to be okay. But nobody really craves sugar as much as they think they do. Most people who crave sugar is just not eating enough protein. So if you're hitting your protein, sugar is not so toxic that it can derail you off a diet. Okay? Next. So nutritional deficiencies. I remember I did a bodybuilding show prep, where I was craving sweet potato skins by like the last week of the show. I was like, why? I Googled it. I was like, oh, there's magnesium and potassium in there. I had no idea, but I was like craving it. I was like, the only thing, because I wasn't eating enough bananas, because I cut bananas out of my diet, which is, you want to not eliminate things. We're going to talk more about that too. But, craving calories due to hunger. So like I don't know what it is, but I really crave like peanut butter, or really crave avocados, or really crave butter. Why? Because your tongue knows that there's fat in that food. And fat has a phospholipid bilayer texture to it. The thing that makes it taste good is not the flavor, it's the texture, chemically. Okay? So, it's calorically dense, it's 9 calories per gram. Okay? Fat is essential, meaning you can only get it by eating it. So just think about this. This is so freeing to know this. If you just don't eat fat, you'll never store it. It's that simple. But you have to eat some fat. You have to eat at least about, I would say, 15% of your dietary intake comes from fat calories, because your brain would just stop working. So you need cognition in your brain. So cholesterol, whole eggs, salmon, red meat, cholesterol actually improves brain cognition. Okay? So it's not good for the heart, apparently, we don't know, but that's what you hear from cardiologists. But it's actually really good for the brain. So eat as liberally as you can while still staying in the caloric deficit for as long as you can until you reach your goal. Put an end goal, a date or a measurement. I'm going to diet for 16 weeks and then I'm done. Or I'm going to get to 15% body fat and then I'm done. Complete the goal, move on to the next goal. Finish something. Go. Generally, the harder you restrict a certain food, the harder you will binge eat it after the diet is over. Anybody who's actually lost a significant amount of weight, like 30 pounds or more, knows that binge eating is a real thing. It has nothing to do about your character or how morally right you are. It has everything to do with you've been deprived physiologically for so long that you're now giving into some form of overeating. It's just because you're hungry. The hunger is ravenous, okay? Next one. After a diet, you should go. Alright, these are some things, these are your only options. Let's say you lose 30 pounds. These are your only options after a diet. Do what everybody else does. Eat intuitively. I'm going to do whatever feels good. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. That's not a good plan. Do not do that. You'll likely gain back more body weight than you started with before the diet. So instead of gaining back 30 pounds, you gain back 50 pounds. reverse diet. That's the best option. To gain minimal weight as the BMR increases. What's the BMR? Does anybody know? Basal metabolic rate. It's your metabolism. It's your resting metabolism. It's what increases when you build muscle. Okay? So your BMR is the thing that will make you a fat burning machine long term, like decades down the road. Okay? But the only way to have a beastly BMR is to reverse diet. So what you'll do is you'll slowly increase calories. I'm just gonna walk away for a second, draw this. So this is your calories. And this is your BMR. On a reverse diet, the goal is not to not gain weight. Well, look over here. So basically, you'll increase calories steadily, about maybe 50 calories a week. Very slowly. So slowly you barely feel it. That's the idea. You don't want to spike your growth hormone too much, or else you get really hungry. So your BMR will kind of just level off in a plateau. But by the time you intersect this magical junction, your BMR will be so fast, it will be almost impossible to gain weight. This is what we call the hard gainer struggle right here. So like teenagers, when they're 15 years old and they eat thousands of calories and they can't gain weight, that's because they're maxing out their BMR. They don't even know it. So you should do that every time you do a diet. And it may look like gaining maybe, it depends how big you are. For me, I would probably gain 20 pounds, but it would be mostly muscle, okay? But if you take a woman, maybe she gains 5 to 8 pounds, okay? Something like that. But the whole point of that is instead of dieting off of 1,200 calories, now you're dieting off of 2,000 calories and burning the same amount of fat. So you're setting yourself better for the next time you need to diet again. Okay? So reverse dieting is a real thing. I highly recommend it. Okay, the other option, hitting theoretical maintenance. I'm just going to eat maintenance calories. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. Your metabolism has been so deprived for so long, it just wants to shoot up as fast as possible. That's why you use the reverse diet like you're riding a horse, just like steady as she goes, you know. So you don't want that thing to rev up too quick. So it's basically impossible, virtually impossible to do it. It's the hardest thing to do. If you were to tell me, Evan, I'm going to hit maintenance calories every day for a week, and I'm just gonna do it. Like, good luck. Try that, and then step on the scale, and you probably lose or gain a pound. So you might be close to it. You might be doing that, but the problem is, whatever you do for long enough, you do it for 6 weeks to 8 weeks, that becomes your new maintenance. You don't let the maintenance tell you what to do. You tell the maintenance what to be. If that makes sense. You control your own metabolism, right? So bulking, some guys they bulk after a cut, but that's kind of dangerous because you're going to gain weight really fast. That's why I recommend the 250 calorie surplus. And then the other option, people just keep going. Like, I'm just going to keep lowering my calories further. Or just keep them there. And a lot of people do that. Yeah, look, Susie looks great. She lost 30 pounds. Well, what is Susie's plans after the diet? She's just going to keep her calories there. Or she's going to destroy her metabolism. She's going to live off of 1,000 calories for the next 10 years.
And then also you need like a certain amount of calories to keep your body, your body processing everything else.
Right, well, let's use logic here. If I can consume 3,000 calories without gaining fat, that means I'm going to be getting more nutrients in my body. More calories equals more nutrients. I can heal faster. I can fight off diseases quicker. Okay? So whatever you do, track it. That's the most crucial time. And fill up on high volume foods. Because your hunger is going to be at an all-time high when you finish a diet. So you need like fruit. I do fruit salad. Maybe some popcorn. Popcorn is high volume. It expands when you cook it. High volume means it takes up space. Okay? Egg whites, cooked egg whites. I dare you to eat a cup of cooked egg whites. It's very voluminous. It'll take you 30 minutes to eat it. All right, ready? So what you do after the diet matters more than the diet itself. 80% of diets fail. This is fact. 50% of those gain back more than they started with. Very depressing. Next. 2 things that affect satiety: food volume and viscosity. Well, chicken breast really works for me on a diet. I don't know why I cook chicken breast. It's boiled, it's naked, it's bland. Well, because it takes a lot of volume in your stomach and it's very viscous. It takes you 45 minutes just to chew it, you know? I think a lot of bodybuilders have that nice little jawline just from chewing chicken all day, right? Calories. So you don't want to do this because most people, they go out to eat, they stop eating when the calories kick in. Well, I just had 2,000 calories, I'm not hungry anymore. So those are the 2 things. I'd rather you focus on eating high volume foods than calories themselves. Okay, thanks. Lose no more than 1% body weight per week. We talked about that. All right, so yeah, let's say you weigh 145 pounds. Don't lose more than 1.45 pounds body weight per week. You're like, Evan's a nice guy, but I don't believe him. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna lose it fast. No, don't lose it fast. I'm telling you, you will lose muscle. Okay. Next. And to be clear, there's only 2 viable diet models that any decent diet. I can't recommend as a professional any diet other than low fat, high carb, or high fat, low carb. 2 polar opposites, but they both work. Keto is neither. Keto is so low carb and it's low protein is the main problem. Okay, which is better? Thanks. People with a high carb diet versus a low carb diet not only get the same fat loss results, but the high carb group consistently outperforms the people and can adhere to the diet longer, making it more permanent, likely due to fiber and satiety. At the end of the day, the diet you can stick to or adhere to the best is the one by definition the healthiest diet for you, whether that is low carb, high carb, intermittent fasting, etc. Thanks. In one longitudinal study, 2 groups of about 100 people each ate in a caloric deficit for 20 weeks. Protein and calories were equated. Now, we've already talked about that before. Protein and calories are equated. However, one group had 100 grams of sugar a day. The other group only had 10 grams of sugar a day. Which group do you think lost more weight? They actually lost the same amount of weight. Why? Because sugar does not cause fat gain or inhibit fat loss independent of calories. Okay? It's not the source of the calories themselves, it's just the amount of calories. It's not quality, it's quantity. You've been lied to your whole life. You've been told it's quality and over quantity. It's not. I can make a point that any food that you deem healthy, like let's say an apple, it's not because of quality, it's because of quantity. It's only 90 calories, it's got 5 grams of fiber, it's very low in fat. Those are all quantitative numbers. Quantity. Okay? Is there any benefit to tracking sugar as opposed to macros? No, there's not. The difference between fat burning and fat loss. Everyone in this building is burning fat. However, very few people may actually be achieving fat loss. Okay? Fat loss is achieved when the net difference between what is stored is less versus what is burned or oxidized. Thanks. Achieving fat loss means you're doing more work with less fuel, which means it will always be hard. Bodybuilding is the hardest sport on the planet for good reason. Less fuel, calories over time means less energy. Your body will become more efficient with calories. A lot of people think, that's a good thing. I'm becoming more efficient. Nope, it's actually a bad thing because it means your metabolism will shrink and get lower and require less calories to maintain the same rate of fat loss. So keeping that in mind, the diet should last ideally 10 to 16 weeks at most. If you're dieting longer than 20 weeks, you're doing something wrong, or unless you have over 100 pounds to lose. Most people don't need to lose over 100 pounds. Treat it like a sprint, get in, get out. Next. More muscle means simply less dieting. Imagining a dieting for a month instead of a year. Okay. Adding muscle is the only way to significantly increase your resting metabolism over time. Muscle equals longevity and the ability for more nutrient intake for a healthier body. Thanks. So, when it comes to dieting, being in a caloric deficit, this is our pyramid of fat loss, okay? The most important things at the bottom, the least important actually at the top, okay? I'm going to talk about some supplements later, but I'm going to tell you why that's the icing on the cake. Sustainability and adherence. If what you're doing can't be sustained, you can't stick to it longer than a few days. Well, I'm going to eat whole foods, okay, but you can't even do it for 3 days, let alone 30 days. Whole 30, heard of that? Caloric deficit. That is the next most important thing. What point is a caloric deficit if you can't sustain it? Okay? Next, exercise. There's not a single doctor that will tell you that exercise or that diet alone is good. You need to do diet and exercise. They go hand in hand. Why? Because you're going to try to prevent muscle loss as you lose weight. Okay? Self-monitoring. Self-monitoring allows you to stay motivated, but really just to kind of guide you along the process. Like, I make all my clients step on a scale once a week. I'm the only trainer that does that. And I do it for good reason. Because I know if I just let you go for like 2 months without stepping on the scale, you're not going to stay with it. So, protein and fiber intake. This is crucial for staying satiated, okay, and building muscle. Fiber is a what? Anybody know what fiber is? It is a what? Looking for one word. What?
Is it insoluble?
It is a carbohydrate. So you have to eat carbs to eat fiber. Carbs and fat macros don't matter as much. It's like one of the least important things. Everybody's arguing about keto versus paleo versus carnivore. It doesn't matter. Just hit your protein and your fiber. Keep your calories fairly low. Last thing, supplements. Supplements, there's no magic supplement for fat loss. There isn't. Even things like CLA that promise you to just burn a bunch of fat doesn't work. Remember raspberry ketones? Dr. Oz recommended that? Like green tea extract? All those things, complete waste of time. Alright? What you should be looking at is what are some supplements to help you build muscle? And there's only 4 proven to actually make you stronger. Can anybody guess what those 4 are? Creatine.
Whey protein.
Caffeine. Betaine. And L-citrulline.
You say caffeine?
Caffeine, yep. Caffeine was so effective at making athletes stronger that in 2008 it was banned in the Olympics. Yes.
Isn't that just because they'll lift heavier while on it?
Yeah. When you're taking caffeine, when you're supplementing with caffeine before you work out, you're going to be stronger.
So not caffeine without working out harder.
No, you have to train and get stronger. Yeah. But I'm saying any other supplement, it's kind of a waste of time when it comes to sports supplementation. Is that like not shocking to you guys? Okay, anyway, next.
So if you do the 3 again, it's
Creatine, caffeine, betaine, and L-citrulline. My point is this. A lot of supplements have those ingredients. This one right here has L-citrulline. It's got 6 grams of L-citrulline per 2 scoops. That is an efficacious dose for an adult my size. That's what you want. Okay?
Is that an amino acid?
Betaine is an L-citrulline is an amino acid. Yes, it is. Okay. All right. So, is there any one food that will make us gain fat in a deficit? This is a fun little game. Inflammatory foods, gluten, pasta, carbs, sugar. Any of those? Next. Nope. Not a single food when you're in a caloric deficit will make you store fat. Okay. And I can pretty much make the statement that there's no inflammatory foods, to be honest. Now, maybe if you have an inflammatory disease and you're mismanaging those things, like a gluten intolerance, okay? But the food itself is not inherently inflammatory. And for most people, if they eat things in moderation, they're not going to get inflamed. You eat 10,000 calories, everything's inflammatory, okay? So, why? Because of the first law of thermodynamics, okay? Matter cannot be created nor destroyed within the universe. You cannot create fat tissue from nothing, from 0 calories. All right? Okay. In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics. All right? Objection. Yeah, but like a calorie is not a calorie, bro. You know? Like you can't tell me that McDonald's is the same thing as clean eating because those calories are really bad, but these calories are really good. Yeah. Okay. That's like saying a mile per hour is not a mile per hour. Whether it's 6 miles per hour or 60 miles per hour, mile per hour is still just a standard unit of measurement. Okay? So if you ate, the problem with McDonald's is like it's not going to be a healthy meal. Okay? But what I'm saying is the calories themselves. Okay? You've got 2,000 calories to play with. If you eat 250 calories from a McDouble or whatever, it's like it's not going to make a big difference. As long as you're getting your protein and your calories are equated, your body composition will not change. Okay? Now you may say, well, what about sodium? Fair point, valid point. Sodium will make you retain water, but isn't that kind of a good thing? Okay? Isn't that kind of what we want? We want to have sodium in our body. So it's more dangerous to be depleted of sodium than have too much of it. Now it is going to make you gain weight, a little bit of water weight, but you'll be stronger when you're more saturated with water. And same goes with creatine. Creatine, a lot of people will say, well, we invented this new creatine product. It doesn't make you store a bunch of water, so don't worry about that. And I tell them, well, you know, what you've just told me is that your product is no longer effective. Because that's the whole point of creatine, is to make you store water. Okay, intracellular muscles. And there's two places you store water. Intramuscular, which is so you can pump the weights, get a good pump, okay? Remember, you're like 70% water yourself. Each person is. And then there's subcutaneous, which is like everybody's obsessed about, oh no, not subcutaneous water retention, oh no, you know. But like, it's not a big deal. The main thing you need to focus on is fat loss. Burn fat, do work. Lift heavy weights, and do a little bit of cardio if you need to. But the burning of calories is what is required to really burn fat. Okay? So there's no scientific definition of clean eating. You'll not find it in any textbook. Your body only recognizes macros and micros. Macros are the big picture. Micros, not as much. Okay? So vegetables are important. We all need vegetables. Vitamins, minerals, nutrients, yes. But macros, if I take a person who lost 50 pounds versus a person living off of multivitamins that didn't lose any weight, the person who lost 50 pounds would be way healthier, as long as they did it the right way. That's kind of the point there. Furthermore, the content of the calorie does not determine the amount of fat being stored. Okay. Hyperpalatable foods, and that's what we talk like McDonald's, that's hyperpalatable, okay? They're easier to increase how many calories you're eating. It should be eaten in great moderation. So generally when I coach people, I tell them eat 20% of the time junk food, whatever you want. As long as you hit your calories and your macros, eat 20% junk, 80% clean, or your definition of clean. Maybe your definition of clean says no fried foods. Maybe it says no meat. Maybe your definition of clean says no processed chemicals. You know, but at the end of the day, calories is the most, we should all be able to agree on calories, right? Eating in a caloric surplus makes us gain body fat. No food is toxic to your health in moderation, right? Go ahead and do the next one. All right, your best friend when it comes to dieting is time, okay? Who said that? Hugh Jackman. He got pretty lean. So why? Because if you have 12 weeks to get ready for a wedding and you dilly-dally and you wait till like 2 weeks before, you're gonna have to really aggressively hit the weights and diet really hard in a short amount of time, you know? So the longer, just give it time. If you're burning fat, just stay there. It's like General Patton. If you're going through hell, just keep going, you know? Ready? What is the body fat percentage for my age? Okay, this is one I actually agree with. This is Ace Fitness. This is who certified me as a trainer. For women, right up in here. So it just kind of gives you like a general idea, like where you're at. I'd say right up in here is where most people should be. I'd say 20 to 30% for women, generally. For men, 10 to 20. But honestly, it depends how you feel. Hormonally, if you feel good at 25%, then stick with 25. If you feel good at 12%, stick with 12. All right? Okay. This is the whole mess, like with YouTube and Instagram and social media, where people just start spouting these things and they're saying, well, this has been shown to do this and this has been shown to do that. The problem with interpreting data is that there is a hierarchy of scientific evidence. You've got all these things right here. And then you got up here, meta-analysis. A meta-analysis is a study of studies. It is very reliable. It's considered the gold standard for scientific evidence. So you cannot really purport it as a truth. How do you know an expert from an amateur? An expert will say, well, we think perhaps. The data suggests, okay? Whereas an amateur will say, well, I saw this on the internet, it must be true. You know, so YouTube videos, personal anecdotes, gut feelings, you know, parental instincts, some guy you know, websites like all these, okay. You get the idea. Ready? Go. These are all the references. This is just mainly about sugar, but go ahead. There's some more. Creatine, monohydrate, proven to make you significantly stronger. Who doesn't want to be stronger, right? It's all natural. If you've ever eaten a steak, you've had creatine. Helps you build muscle, okay? So it's been shown to diminish the effects of cognitive decline and aging. It gives you more ATP, okay? It has zero effect on hormones. Why? Because it's not a hormone. It's not a drug. It's not steroids. Or energy balance. Why? Because it has 0 calories. It has a neutral effect. It's very cheap. It's been around for like 50 years, and they found a way to keep it cheap. Kind of like Arizona tea, right? Improves cognition in the elderly. Okay, we already kind of mentioned that, but this is the one you want. You want monohydrate. Monohydrate has a 100% saturation rate. You cannot get better than that. Right? Very nice. So we do sell it online. Right now it's $24.29 with auto ship. Of course, I'll be giving you my trainer code for discounts. You could put it in a smoothie if you want. That's fine. But this is just to kind of terrorize you guys. Alright, go ahead and go next. Mini frittatas to go. This has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 ingredients. I stick to usually about 3 or 4 ingredients for my meals. The less ingredients, probably the better. That way you don't get too distracted. Good sources of lean protein, okay? Cottage cheese, not my favorite because it constipates a lot of people. Greek yogurt, probably one of the best sources you can have. Dairy is actually the most highly enriched source of amino acids on the planet. This is also dairy, okay? Whey protein. Whey specifically. Whey protein has the highest amount of leucine, and so does egg whites on the planet. Leucine is responsible for triggering muscle protein synthesis. Chicken breast, really high viscosity, no nutrients though. There's no bright colors, it's just pale, bland, naked chicken breast. So if you live off of chicken breast your whole life, you're going to be deficient in a lot of nutrients and vitamins. Jelly turkey, a lot of sodium. This is fine. Pork is a lot leaner than you think. Just throwing that out there. Canned fish, shrimp. I don't really eat any canned foods, to be honest. Shrimp, you know, everything wants to eat a shrimp because shrimp is like 99% meat, right? 96%, yeah. The leaner the beef you can get, probably the better. But I don't think it makes a big difference if you're cooking it. Like, it depends how you cook it, you know? Alright, let's go next. If you can't hit your protein, you need this, okay? If you have to hit 180 grams of protein a day, or 120 grams of protein a day, like, I just can't do it. Supplement with protein. That's what is there to supplement what is missing in your diet. Whey protein is like way better than any other source of protein powder. Vegan powder, again, you would take twice the amount of vegan powder. You'd have to do 2 scoops to equal the amount of leucine found in whey. Okay? Next.
Yeah. What for some people that might not know, what is the difference between whey isolate protein and whey concentrate protein?
I'm glad you asked. Whey concentrate is about 5% lactose. Whey isolate about 1% lactose. It's just more microfiltered. So if you're a little sensitive to lactose, you can have isolate. I think a lot of people make the mistake. They say, well, I'm lactose intolerant, so I'm not going to do any whey. I'm just going to do vegan. That to me is a mistake because you're just missing out on a lot of nutrients. But you know, you can do whatever you want. I'm not your doctor. Next.
The leucine that's in the amino acids, is that the same?
Yes, it's the same and it's naturally occurring. I've actually heard a concentrate might be even higher, depending on certain.
Amino acids?
In the whey concentrate.
Oh.
Yeah, so as long as it's whey and it does okay on your stomach, that's generally the best choice. Next. Helps with muscle recovery, strengthen the immune system. Glutamine, okay? So if you're really sore from leg day, take out glutamine. It's better than amino recovery, okay? Why is it better? Because it's a higher concentration of L-glutamine, which is specifically going to repair muscle tissue. But it also, if you get sick or something, you take that too. Boost your immune system, right? Gastrointestinal health, so your immune system. Ready? Right? So any takeaways? We pretty much know that we should probably be tracking our calories, right? I guess I should. Don't eat intuitively, which is the same thing as this. Moderately high protein. It's got to be moderately high. There's not a single diet that's healthy that's missing protein. Okay. Lose weight slowly. Okay. Right. There's no more than 1% of your body weight per week. Meal prep. I didn't really touch on meal prep, but meal prep is the best way to stay on track. If you really like your whole foods, have a perfect, exceptional meal of chicken, broccoli, and rice. For lunch every day. Why not do that? You can't go wrong. If you're hungry for a chocolate bar and you eat the meal prep meal first, you won't be hungry for the chocolate bar later because you're filled up on protein.